Have you ever noticed those people who seem to have their own gravity? They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't explain, and yet everything orbits around them: opportunities, people, respect. While most waste energy trying to prove their worth, these people simply exist with a certainty that needs no words. And the world bends. It's not luck, it's not privilege, it's understanding. Understanding something most will never discover. That power doesn't belong to the strongest, the smartest, or the most attractive. It belongs to the one who doesn't move when everyone around them is desperate. Centuries ago, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli decoded these rules, not the rules they teach in school, the real rules, the ones that actually work. And today, you're going to learn 10 of them. But I need to warn you, what you're about to hear isn't cheap motivation. This is mental architecture. These are principles that will make you rethink everything you believed about influence, control, and personal power. If you're ready to see the game as it really is, keep watching, because in 20 minutes, you'll either have started transforming, or you'll have discovered you prefer to stay asleep. The first law is the most painful, because it forces you to kill your own illusions. Most people say they want clarity, but what they really want is comfort disguised as truth. They want to understand, as long as they're not forced to change anything. They want honesty, as long as honesty doesn't dismantle the stories they built to protect their weakness. Machiavelli wrote something brutal. Men are so simple and so obedient to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. This isn't cynicism, it's human anatomy. People prefer sweet lies to bitter facts, always have, always will, and those few who choose to see things as they really are, they become dangerous, because clarity kills external control. When you see clearly the patterns behind people's masks, you stop reacting to their performances. You stop feeding emotional parasites who live off your guilt and empathy. You stop chasing approval from those who never intended to give it. But here's the price. Clarity demands a death, the death of illusion. You start realizing that half the promises you believed in were just disguised negotiations, that loyalty often lasts only as long as you're useful, that morality, in the wrong hands, becomes a leash. Most people can't face this. They prefer the fog, because the fog is warm, but power lives in the cold, where every decision is made without distortion. So here's your first choice. Will you keep sleeping comfortably in illusion, or will you wake up to the cruelty of truth? Because once you truly see, there's no going back, only forward, colder, sharper, freer. And I know what you're thinking right now. Is this going to make me heartless? No, it's going to make you free, but we'll get to that. Power that depends on permission can be taken away. Power that depends on position can be replaced. But power that is personal, that comes from who you've become, that cannot be destroyed. You've met someone like this, haven't you? Someone who walks into a place and the atmosphere shifts, not because they demand attention, but because they radiate ownership of themselves, of the moment, of reality itself. That's personal power, the kind that cannot be borrowed, copied, or faked. To build it, you need one brutal act, the act of self-definition. Most people are mirrors. They reflect opinions, trends, moods. They shift to fit the environment, hoping to be accepted. But in doing so, they lose themselves, and the world treats them accordingly. Because the world has no respect for those who don't know who they are. The powerful, on the other hand, define their identity like a fortress. They decide who they are, and then become it completely. Their values, tone, and decisions, everything aligns like weapons forged for one purpose. There's no confusion, no contradiction, no performance, only clarity of being. And clarity, when embodied, becomes command. This is why you must stop trying to convince people of your worth. Stop arguing for your value. Stop seeking validation from those beneath your purpose. Make your existence a statement that needs no explanation. When your sense of self is absolute, every insult becomes irrelevant. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every failure becomes information, not identity. That's how you make power personal. You remove the middlemen between you and your confidence. You stop needing reputation to feel strong. You stop needing attention to feel real. You stop needing company to feel complete. Once you reach that point, you become unpredictable. Because no one can threaten you. They can't take what you don't depend on. They can't shame you for choices you've already accepted. They can't lure you with approval you no longer crave. Machiavelli would call this true sovereignty, becoming the kind of person who doesn't need the throne, because the throne exists wherever they stand. But making power personal comes with a cost. And that leads us to law number 3. There's a point in every powerful person's rise when the world stops asking if they'll succeed and starts asking when. That's the moment when victory becomes inevitable, and inevitability is the final illusion of total control. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. Meaning people don't follow what is true, they follow what appears unstoppable. If you can make your ascent look certain, the world will begin helping you climb, out of fear, admiration, or surrender. The aura of inevitability isn't built by luck. It's built by consistency, restraint, and psychological warfare. You make progress in silence, but reveal it strategically. You show just enough movement to suggest momentum, just enough confidence to make doubt look foolish. Once people believe in your inevitability, they start aligning themselves with your direction, not because they understand your plan, but because they fear being left behind by it. That's the secret of influence. People don't follow leaders, they follow certainty. They attach themselves to those who appear chosen by destiny, those who seem guided by something larger than chance. To cultivate this aura, you must master the illusion of smooth inevitability. Even when you're struggling, you move as if your outcome is guaranteed. Even when you're uncertain, you project quiet assurance. You never appear desperate, defensive, or disoriented, because once others sense panic, the spell breaks perception, drives momentum, and momentum, once others start believing in it, becomes self-fulfilling. Your confidence infects them, your calm convinces them, your composure under pressure becomes evidence of something divine. Never reveal uncertainty publicly. Doubt is a luxury for private reflection, not for display. Let the world see you only in control, even when control feels like a whisper inside chaos. And never argue for your inevitability. Let your presence, your pace, and your precision speak it silently. The more you insist, the less they believe. The more you act like destiny, the more they accept it as truth. When you cultivate inevitability, you stop fighting for belief. The world begins to rationalize your victories for you. Every success becomes obvious, every move genius, every risk calculated, and soon even your enemies start to hesitate. Because who wants to stand in the way of what cannot be stopped? But here's what most people miss about inevitability, and this is critical. Power is not always found in order. Sometimes it lives in controlled disorder, in chaos that obeys only you. The weak crave stability. They want predictability, comfort, clear patterns. That's why they're easy to control. Once you know what calms them, what provokes them, what pleases them, you own them. But the powerful understand something deeper. Predictability is a prison. If people can read your next move, they can plan against you. If they always know how you'll react, they can manipulate you. Control, then, is not about being rigid. It's about being unreadable. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must learn to be both fox and lion, cunning and forceful, shifting between them at will. That's the essence of calculated chaos. To appear inconsistent, not because you're lost, but because you choose to be unpredictable on purpose. The greatest leaders, strategists, and influencers all have this in common. They move like storms. You never know when they'll strike, where they'll turn, or how long they'll last. But when they move, they reshape everything. Unpredictability is power. It keeps enemies anxious and allies alert. It makes people hesitate before crossing you because they can't calculate what you'll do if they do. That uncertainty is your shield. Fear doesn't come from what people know you'll do. It comes from what they can't predict. To master calculated chaos, you must first abandon your obsession with always being understood. Let people misread you. Let them think they figured you out. Then prove them wrong again and again until they stop trying. Once they stop trying to predict you, you have won. But chaos must always be controlled. This is where fools fail. They mistake impulsiveness for power. They confuse recklessness with dominance. True chaos is never emotional. It's engineered. Every move that looks spontaneous is secretly deliberate. Every surprise is the result of preparation hidden in silence. Think of it like a storm guided by a mind. It appears wild, but every strike is precise. You create confusion, not because you've lost control, but because you want others to lose theirs. This is psychological warfare. You make people dance to a rhythm they can't follow. You train them to expect nothing. And in that uncertainty, they become reactive, emotional, sloppy. While they unravel, you remain still, the calm center within chaos. The key is balance. Too much chaos and you destroy your own structure. Too much order and you become predictable prey. The art lies in dancing between the two, in being chaos with a plan, unpredictability with direction. When they think you're weak, strike. When they think you're strong, wait. When they think they know you, change. Let them see your chaos, but make sure it's always your design. The storm that obeys no one except its creator. Have you ever noticed those people who seem to have their own gravity? They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't explain. And yet, everything orbits around them. Opportunities, people, respect. While most waste energy trying to prove their worth, these people simply exist with a certainty that needs no words, and the world bends. It's not luck, it's not privilege, it's understanding. Understanding something most will never discover. That power doesn't belong to the strongest, the smartest, or the most attractive. It belongs to the one who doesn't move when everyone around them is desperate. Centuries ago, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli decoded these rules, not the rules they teach in school, the real rules, the ones that actually work. And today, you're going to learn 10 of them. But I need to warn you, What you're about to hear isn't cheap motivation. This is mental architecture. These are principles that will make you rethink everything you believed about influence, control, and personal power. If you're ready to see the game as it really is, keep watching, because in 20 minutes, you'll either have started transforming, or you'll have discovered you prefer to stay asleep. Law 1. Clarity is Cruelty, 130 to 345. The first law is the most painful because it forces you to kill your own illusions. Most people say they want clarity, but what they really want is comfort disguised as truth. They want to understand, as long as they're not forced to change anything. They want honesty, as long as honesty doesn't dismantle the stories they built to protect their weakness. Machiavelli wrote something brutal. Men are so simple and so obedient to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. This isn't cynicism, it's human anatomy. People prefer sweet lies to bitter facts. Always have, always will. And those few who choose to see things as they really are, they become dangerous. Because clarity kills external control. When you see clearly the patterns behind people's masks, you stop reacting to their performances. You stop feeding emotional parasites who live off your guilt and empathy. You stop chasing approval from those who never intended to give it. But here's the price. Clarity demands a death, the death of illusion. You start realizing that half the promises you believed in were just disguised negotiations, that loyalty often lasts only as long as you're useful, that morality, in the wrong hands, becomes a leash. Most people can't face this. They prefer the fog, because the fog is warm, but power lives in the cold, where every decision is made without distortion. So here's your first choice. Will you keep sleeping comfortably in illusion? Or will you wake up to the cruelty of truth? Because once you truly see, there's no going back. Only forward. Colder. Sharper. Freer. And I know what you're thinking right now. Is this going to make me heartless? No, it's going to make you free, but we'll get to that. If what you're hearing resonates, if you're starting to recognize that maybe what you thought was depression or emptiness is actually something else entirely, I made another video called You're Not Depressed, You're Empty. Here's why. That connects directly to what we're talking about here. Because sometimes what we call powerlessness is just spiritual vacancy, a void where purpose should be. The link is in the description. Watch it after this one. It might explain why you clicked on this video in the first place. Now, let's continue. The most dangerous kind of power isn't physical, it's psychological. It's not about force. It's about control through necessity. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He wrote that a wise ruler should always conduct himself so that his people cannot do without him. Dependency is the invisible chain of power. Once someone depends on you for validation, for access, for stability, you own the rhythm of their mind. Dependency creates leverage. And leverage is the currency of control. Most people want to be liked. The powerful want to be needed. Because being liked is fragile. It can change overnight. But being needed gives you permanence. It forces others to protect your position even when they resent you. So, how do you create dependency? First, you make yourself useful. Not through flattery or compliance, but through value. You become the one who delivers results, solves problems, brings calm. When chaos reigns, you make yourself indispensable. The quiet pillar in every system you touch. Once they rely on your strength, you withdraw slightly, not completely, just enough to let them feel the vacuum. This is the art, to give so effectively that your absence feels like pain. Withdrawal turns usefulness into addiction. It reminds people that you are the source of their stability, approval, access, or peace. And once they associate you with their comfort, they begin to protect your presence like a survival instinct. This is what Machiavelli would call possession through influence. It's not ownership in name, it's ownership in effect. You don't need to control people directly. When they start controlling themselves to keep your favor, that is true power. The kind that requires no demand, no noise, no force. A single withdrawal achieves more than 1,000 commands. But here lies the art. You must balance between giving and vanishing. If you withdraw too soon, they detach. If you give too long, they take you for granted. The mastery lies in timing, knowing exactly when to disappear so that your absence grows your importance. Think of influence like oxygen. You let them breathe freely, then take a little away, not to suffocate them, but to remind them who provides the air. This is not cruelty, it's architecture. Every empire, every movement, every company is built on dependency. Power is not held by the majority. It's held by those the majority cannot function without. Create dependency, then withdraw, and watch how power begins to orbit you. Not because you demand it, but because the world can no longer move without you. Reality is not what is true, it is what people believe is true. The powerful have always understood this. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." That is not cynicism, that is a law of human nature. People rarely look beyond appearances. They react to symbols, tone, confidence, and mystery more than to logic or fact. Control what they see, and you control how they act. Control how they act, and you control everything. The weak spend their lives trying to prove who they are. The powerful decide who they will be seen as and never explain it. You can't control the world, but you can control the frame through which the world sees you. And once you master the frame, even lies begin to work like truth. Perception is the currency of influence. You could be brilliant, capable, even noble, but if your image communicates uncertainty, the world will treat you as uncertain. You could be cruel, selfish, or manipulative, but if your image communicates strength and direction, the world will follow. That is why power begins not with action, but with presentation. The way you speak, the way you stand, the silence you maintain. These are not details, they are architecture. They build the invisible palace of your reputation. Understand this. Perception is not decoration. It is armor. Every ruler, every leader, every conqueror wears it. They construct their myth carefully. A balance between fear and admiration. People must never fully understand you. They must sense there is more than what you reveal, because curiosity breeds influence. Control perception through 3 weapons: mystery, consistency, and projection. Mystery keeps others chasing clarity. When they can't predict you, they invest energy trying to. Their focus shifts from their power to yours. And in that shift, they become followers. Consistency gives your myth weight. Say little, but make every word and act align. Repetition turns performance into identity. If you act like a leader long enough, people stop questioning it. They believe it. And projection, the ability to radiate confidence even when uncertain, is the final art. The mind cannot fully distinguish between appearance and reality. If you look sure, you become sure. People will lend you their belief until it turns into your momentum. This is why you must never expose your chaos publicly. Never bleed in front of the crowd. Let your mistakes happen in private, your rebuilding in silence, and your reappearance in glory. The world respects results, not explanations. You're not required to be real with everyone. You're required to be strategic, because transparency is not strength, it's surrender. Those who show everything lose everything. To control perception is to write your own myth. It is to become a symbol, not a personality. Symbols cannot be argued with. They are obeyed, loved, or feared. And once you reach that level, you no longer chase opportunities. They orbit you. Emotion is the easiest way to control a human being. That's why the world is full of people who know how to provoke it. They don't need power, money, or truth. They just need to make you feel. Once you react, you lose clarity. Once you lose clarity, you can be led anywhere. This is how most people live. Constantly manipulated by feelings they never questioned. They love when they should analyze. They panic when they should plan. They argue when they should observe. And by the time they realize it, they've already surrendered their power. Machiavelli knew this well. He wrote, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. The wise man uses both, but never becomes a slave to either. He understands emotion as a weapon, not a weakness. Detachment is not coldness, it's control. It's the ability to stand inside a storm and never let the storm touch your center. When you're detached, you can think while others drown in panic. You can speak softly while others scream for validation. You can see the entire chessboard while everyone else is busy reacting to one move. Emotion blinds judgment. It makes you exaggerate small threats, trust the wrong people, defend illusions. That's why the powerful are never impulsive. They wait. They watch. They let everyone else reveal themselves. Because when people are emotional, they show everything. Their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. And the one who stays calm learns how to rule them. The world mistakes emotional control for lack of passion. But the truth is the opposite. The detached feel everything. They just don't let it leak out. They know emotion is sacred fuel. And like fire, it must be contained or it burns down everything. To command from logic is to live as a strategist, not a slave. It means you decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You stop fighting pointless battles just to prove a point. You stop explaining yourself to those who will never understand. You stop trying to fix people who need their chaos more than your help. Logic gives you the highest form of freedom, the ability to choose your response. The weak are controlled by stimuli. The powerful control their state. And when you can control your state, you can control outcomes. Because every negotiation, every conflict, every opportunity is decided by the one who stays calm the longest. Detachment is not withdrawal. It's dominance disguised as peace. The quiet person in the room often has the most control because silence unnerves the emotional. They mistake it for indifference, but it's actually assessment. You're studying the field while they're showing their hand. Remember, the goal is not to stop feeling. It's to stop being controlled by what you feel. Emotion is a servant, not a master. And when logic holds the leash, power follows. Because in the game of life, those who panic obey those who remain calm, and those who remain calm command. Power does not come from constant presence. It comes from strategic absence. The more people see you, the more they think they know you. The more accessible you are, the more ordinary you become. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort kills respect. The powerful understand this instinctively. They appear when it matters and vanish when it doesn't. They move like ghosts, present just enough to be remembered, absent enough to be mythologized. Machiavelli warned rulers to never let their subjects grow too accustomed to them, because when people think they can reach you whenever they please, they stop valuing what it costs to have you. They start treating your time, your energy, your presence as resources, not gifts. Distance is not detachment, it's design. It's the art of making people earn proximity to you. When you master distance, something subtle happens. Your silence becomes louder than words. Your absence starts to speak for you. People begin to imagine you, to fill in your mystery with fascination and fear. And imagination is far more powerful than reality, because here's the paradox. The less you explain yourself, the more people obsess over understanding you. The less you appear, the more they wonder where you've gone, and in that wondering, you dominate their thoughts. This is psychological gravity, the force of scarcity. What is rare becomes valuable. What is always available becomes invisible. That's why you must stop trying to be everywhere. Stop being constantly reachable, constantly seen, constantly reacting. Withdraw strategically. Let your energy create anticipation. Let your presence feel like an event, not a routine. When you disappear for a while, the world resets around your absence. The noise quiets. Your name becomes heavier. Your return unpredictable. And when you reappear, stronger, sharper, quieter. It feels like a storm has entered the room. Distance also protects your clarity. When you step away, you see the game from above. You recognize who is genuine and who only thrives when you're available to use. You discover which relationships are rooted in respect and which depend on your convenience. Withdrawal reveals truth. The ones who panic when you disappear were never connected to you. They were connected to their control over you. The ones who remain patient, who still respect you in silence, those are your allies. Everyone else was a leash, so become less available. Let people wait for your attention. Let them earn your response. And when they finally get it, make it precise, calculated, unforgettable. Because distance doesn't make you cold, it makes you commanding. The ones who need constant attention fade into background noise. The ones who master distance become legends. Remember, scarcity builds reverence. The sun disappears each night, and that's exactly why the world worships its return. The moment you think you've arrived, you begin to rot. Every empire that ever collapsed, every king who lost his throne, every genius who faded into obscurity, all fell for the same illusion, that the climb was over, but the powerful know the climb never ends, because power is not a possession, it's a pulse. It must be fed, refined, and reinvented, or it dies. Machiavelli warned rulers that fortune destroys those who stand still. He said that when the world changes and a man refuses to adapt, he becomes his own downfall. To survive, you must stay fluid, unpredictable, even to yourself. Evolution is the final weapon of power. It is how you outlast envy, betrayal, time, and even your own legend. The unstoppable never settle into a version of themselves. They outgrow it again and again until even their past fears cannot recognize them. The masses cling to identity like armor. They say, "This is who I am," as if that phrase will protect them. But what they call identity is often just habit, a prison built from yesterday's choices. The powerful destroy that prison regularly. They break their own patterns before the world can. They reinvent their appearance, their methods, their mindset, not because they are lost, but because they refuse to be found. To evolve is to remain untouchable. Once people think they understand you, they begin to predict you. And once they can predict you, they can control you. Change kills that control. This is why evolution feels like betrayal to those who stay behind. When you grow, you stop fitting into the illusions that others built around you. They'll call you arrogant, distant, ungrateful, because your transformation threatens their stability. But the unstoppable don't owe anyone the version of themselves that feels safe to others. They understand that progress demands isolation, criticism, and reinvention, and they accept that with quiet precision. Machiavelli would call this self-preservation through transformation, the art of shedding the skin before it hardens. It's not about chasing trends or pretending to be new. It's about adjusting your form while keeping your core intact like a serpent, cold and calm, always shedding what no longer serves. Evolution is not chaos. It's strategy disguised as rebirth. It allows you to remain many steps ahead of those who cling to yesterday's rules. While they try to master what you used to be, you're already becoming something else. This is the final law of the unstoppable. Never arrive, keep moving, keep learning, keep mutating your edge. The moment they think they've understood you, change again. Because permanence is death and transformation is power. Let them chase your shadow while you rewrite yourself in silence. Let them argue about who you are while you build who you'll become next. Let them fear your evolution, because fear is respect in disguise. And one day they'll realize the truth. You were never one person. You were an entire evolution disguised as a single name. That is what it means to be unstoppable. To conquer not once, but forever. If this philosophy spoke to you, if you felt that quiet burn of awakening while listening, then remember, this isn't motivation, it's transformation. So stay sharp, stay cold, stay evolving. And if you're ready to understand the deeper void that brought you here, don't forget to watch. You're not depressed, you're empty. Here's why. Because sometimes power starts not with strength, but with understanding the emptiness you've been trying to fill. The link is in the description. This is just the beginning.